Remember when you were a kid and summer vacation felt like it lasted forever? Those 3 months between school years seemed to stretch on endlessly, filled with countless adventures, lazy afternoons, and what felt like unlimited time to just exist. Now it's December, and you're asking yourself where the entire year went. It feels like just yesterday you were making New Year's resolutions, and suddenly you're buying holiday gifts wondering how 12 months vanished in what feels like 12 weeks. You're not imagining this. Time genuinely feels like it's accelerating as you get older, and the science behind why this happens is absolutely fascinating. Today, we're diving deep into the psychology and neuroscience that explains why your childhood felt like an eternity, but your adult years seem to fly by at warp speed. Trust me, understanding this phenomenon might just change how you experience the rest of your life. Let's start with the most intuitive explanation, something called the proportional theory. This was first proposed by French philosopher Paul Janet back in 1897, and it's remarkably simple. Think about it this way. When you're 10 years old, 1 year represents 10% of your entire life. That's huge. It's a massive chunk of your lived experience. But when you're 40, that same year is only 2.5% of your life. By the time you're 80, a single year is just 1.25% of your existence. Your brain naturally compares new experiences to the sum of all your previous experiences. So as that denominator gets bigger, each additional year feels proportionally smaller. It's like trying to notice a single cup of water added to a bathtub versus adding that same cup to an Olympic swimming pool. This theory suggests that time perception is relative to the total amount of time you've already lived. A summer vacation at age 8 feels endless because 3 months represents 3% of your entire existence up to that point. At age 40, those same 3 months? Less than 1%. Barely a blip on your experiential radar. But here's where it gets even more interesting. The proportional theory explains a lot, but it's not the whole story. Because if this were the only factor, we'd experience a smooth, predictable acceleration of time throughout our lives. But that's not what happens. Most people report that time seems to speed up in distinct phases, particularly after childhood and again in middle age. So what else is going on? Here's a mind-blowing fact. Your brain doesn't actually experience time in real time. Instead, it constructs your sense of time retrospectively, based on the memories it forms. And this is where things get really interesting. When you're a child, almost everything is new. Your first day of school, your first friend, the first time you taste ice cream, ride a bicycle, see the ocean, or understand a joke. Your brain is constantly encoding new memories because it's encountering novel situations that require attention and processing. Novel experiences create what neuroscientists call rich encoding. Your brain pays intense attention to new things because it needs to learn from them. This creates detailed, multi-layered memories. And when you look back on a period filled with rich, detailed memories, it feels like it lasted a long time. Think about the last time you went on vacation to somewhere completely new. You probably crammed 5 days with new sights, tastes, experiences, and adventures. When you got home, didn't those 5 days feel longer than 5 typical days at work? That's rich encoding in action. Now contrast that with your average Tuesday at age 35. You wake up to the same alarm, brush your teeth the same way, take the same route to work, sit in the same meetings, eat lunch at the same places, come home, watch TV, and go to bed. Your brain doesn't bother creating detailed memories of this because it's done it thousands of times before. There's nothing new to encode. When you look back on that week, or that month, or that year, your brain finds very few memorable markers. The time collapses in your memory because there's not much memory there to begin with. It's like trying to measure distance with very few landmarks versus a road with something new to see every mile. There's a cruel paradox at play here. As we age, we naturally develop routines because they're efficient. Routines help us function. They reduce decision fatigue. They let us navigate our daily lives on autopilot, so we can focus our mental energy on things that actually matter. But this efficiency comes with a hidden cost. It makes time vanish. When you perform tasks on autopilot, your brain switches to what neuroscientists call low-level processing. You're not forming detailed, episodic memories. You're running on habit loops that require minimal conscious attention. And because you're not forming those memories, when you look back, there's nothing there to remember. The time just disappears. This is why you can drive home from work and not remember the drive. Your brain has done it so many times that it doesn't bother recording the experience anymore. It's neurologically efficient, but experientially devastating. Children don't have this problem because they haven't had time to develop extensive routines yet. Everything still requires conscious attention. The walk to school requires navigating social interactions, avoiding the mean kid, stepping over the crack in the sidewalk, noticing the flowers blooming in spring. For them, every day is filled with moments worth encoding. As adults, we trade conscious experience for efficiency. And in doing so, we trade rich memories for hollow time that speeds by unnoticed. But here's the hopeful part. This means we have some control over how time feels. By deliberately breaking routines and seeking novel experiences, we can actually slow down our perception of time. We'll come back to this later. Now let's talk about what's happening inside your skull at the chemical level, because this is where things get truly fascinating. Your brain has an internal clock, and it's not metaphorical. It's a literal biological mechanism that helps you perceive the passage of time. This clock is heavily influenced by neurotransmitters, particularly dopamine. Dopamine is often called the motivation molecule, but it plays a crucial role in time perception too. When dopamine levels are high, your internal clock ticks faster, and you perceive external time as passing more slowly. When dopamine levels are lower, your internal clock slows down, and external time seems to fly by. Here's the kicker. Dopamine production naturally declines as you age. Studies have shown that dopamine production in the brain can decrease by up to 10% per decade after age 40. Your internal clock is literally slowing down, making the external world seem to speed up by comparison. Think of it like this. Imagine you have a metronome keeping time. When you're young, that metronome is clicking away quickly, giving you many reference points per minute. As you age, the metronome slows down, giving you fewer clicks per minute, but the actual minutes stay the same length. So relative to your internal metronome, external time appears to accelerate. This also explains why drugs that affect dopamine levels can dramatically alter time perception. Cocaine and methamphetamine, which flood the brain with dopamine, make users feel like time is slowing down. Conversely, conditions like Parkinson's disease, which involves dopamine depletion, often cause patients to underestimate time intervals. Hours feel like minutes because their internal clock is running slow. But there's more to the neurochemistry story. Renowned psychologist William James made a fascinating observation over a century ago. The same space of time seems shorter as we grow older. He noted that days seem to pass slowly while we're living them, but years seem to disappear when we look back. This is the distinction between prospective time perception, how long something feels while it's happening, and retrospective time perception, how long something feels when you look back on it. A boring meeting feels endless while you're sitting in it. That's prospective time. But when you look back on that entire week, the boring meeting barely registers as a memory, and the week feels short. That's retrospective time. As children, we're constantly in a state of learning and attention. Our prospective and retrospective time perceptions are more aligned because we're forming memories during most of our waking hours. Every day is mentally cataloged in detail. As adults, we often switch to autopilot. Our prospective time might feel normal or even slow during boring or routine moments, but our retrospective time collapses because we formed so few memories worth keeping. When December arrives and we wonder where the year went, we're experiencing retrospective time compression. We simply don't have enough memory markers to fill out the year in our mind. Brain imaging studies have shown that memory formation and time perception are intimately linked in regions like the hippocampus and the striatum. When these regions show high activity during novel experiences, people later report that time felt slower during that period. This is why traumatic or extremely intense experiences often feel like they happen in slow motion. Your brain is recording every detail because it might be important for survival. More details means richer memory. Richer memory means time feels expanded when you recall it. There's a principle in psychology that goes like this. Where attention goes, perception flows. And nowhere is this more relevant than in time perception. When you're fully engaged in something, really focused and present, time can feel like it either slows down or speeds up, depending on the nature of the engagement. This is what psychologist Mihai Csikszentmihalyi called flow state. But here's what's crucial for our discussion. Even though time might feel like it's flying while you're in flow, when you look back on that period, it feels substantial. It feels like it mattered. Because you were present, your brain formed actual memories of the experience. Contrast this with passive activities. When you're scrolling through social media, watching random YouTube videos, or binge-watching a show you're not really invested in, you're not fully present. Your attention is fragmented. You're consuming content, but you're not engaged. These activities make prospective time pass quickly. You look up, and 3 hours have vanished. But they also make retrospective time collapse, because you formed almost no meaningful memories. You can't even remember what you watched. The time is just gone. Studies on attention and time perception have found that tasks requiring sustained attention tend to make time feel slower while performing them, but more substantial in retrospect. Tasks that allow for mind wandering make time disappear both in the moment and in memory. Modern life is filled with attention thieves. Social media platforms are literally engineered to capture your attention without engaging you meaningfully. They're designed to trigger dopamine releases through novelty and rewards, but the novelty is shallow. It doesn't create the rich encoding that makes time feel substantial. This is one of the reasons why so many people feel like their lives are passing by in a blur. We're spending more time than ever in states of passive, fragmented attention. Quick test. Think back to your most emotional moments. Your first kiss. The day you got engaged or married. Hearing life-changing news, good or bad. A close call in traffic. A moment of profound joy or deep grief. How do these memories feel in terms of time? I'm willing to bet they feel expanded, like they happened in slow motion, even if they only lasted seconds. Emotional intensity directly affects time perception. When you experience strong emotions, your amygdala, the brain's emotional processing center, becomes highly active. This triggers the release of neurotransmitters that enhance memory formation. Your brain essentially says, "This is important. Record everything." This is an evolutionary adaptation. Emotional moments are often important for survival or reproduction, so your brain wants to capture every detail. A near-death experience might contain information crucial for avoiding danger in the future. A moment of connection might be important for forming bonds that ensure your genes get passed on. The result? Time expands. Not literally, of course, but in your perception and memory. You remember these moments as lasting longer than they actually did because you have so many details stored about them. Here's the problem. As we age, we tend to experience fewer genuinely emotionally intense moments. Not because we're incapable of emotion, but because we've encountered more situations before. Very few things genuinely surprise us anymore. We've felt most feelings, seen most sights, heard most stories. Children live in a constant state of emotional discovery. Everything is the most beautiful, the scariest, the funniest, the most exciting thing they've ever experienced, because it often literally is. Adults develop emotional calluses. We become harder to impress, surprise, or move. We're more stable, which is good for mental health and relationships, but it means fewer of those time-expanding emotional peaks. This emotional habituation contributes to time acceleration. Fewer emotional peaks means fewer intense memories, which means time collapses when we look back. Okay, so we've established why time feels like it's accelerating. Your life is a larger proportion of itself. You're experiencing less novelty. Your routines are efficient but memory poor. Your dopamine production is declining. You're less present, and you're experiencing fewer emotional peaks. That sounds pretty depressing. But here's the exciting part. Now that you understand the mechanisms, you can actually do something about it. You can't stop time, obviously, but you can change your perception of it. You can make the next year feel longer and more substantial than the last. Here's how. First, deliberately seek novelty. You don't need to quit your job and travel the world, though that would certainly work. But you can take different routes to work. Try new restaurants. Pick up a new hobby. Learn a language. Take a class in something that intimidates you. The key is to put yourself in situations that require conscious attention and create new memories. Second, break your routines. Even small changes matter. If you eat breakfast the same way every morning, change it up. If you always watch TV in the evening, do something else 1 or 2 nights a week. Read a book in a park. Call an old friend. Cook something complicated. The goal is to prevent your brain from running entirely on autopilot. Third, practice presence. Mindfulness isn't just a buzzword. It's a scientifically validated way to enhance time perception. When you're fully present during an experience, really paying attention to sensory details, thoughts, and feelings, you're encoding richer memories. This makes time feel more substantial in retrospect. Even a mundane walk can feel meaningful if you're truly present for it. Fourth, seek emotional intensity. I'm not saying you should pursue drama or danger, but don't shy away from experiences that make you feel deeply. Have vulnerable conversations. Take reasonable risks. Allow yourself to be moved by art, music, nature, or connection. These emotional peaks create the memory markers that make time feel rich. Fifth, document your life differently. Taking photos is great, but also keep a journal. Write about your experiences, your thoughts, your feelings. This serves two purposes. It forces you to be more present during experiences because you know you'll be writing about them, and it creates a rich record you can revisit. When you read back through your journal at the end of the year, you'll be amazed at how much you actually experienced. Sixth, create anticipation. Always have something to look forward to. Book trips months in advance. Sign up for events. Make plans with friends weeks ahead. Anticipation itself slows down perceived time because your brain is actively thinking about the future event, creating a sense of time between now and then. Seventh, challenge yourself. Learning difficult new skills forces your brain into high attention mode. Whether it's a musical instrument, a new language, a sport, or a creative pursuit, challenging activities create rich memories and make time feel more substantial. Here's something most people don't talk about when discussing time acceleration. There's also something beautiful about it. Yes, it's scary to feel like time is slipping away. But the reason time feels faster is because you've lived more. You've accumulated experiences, wisdom, and memories. Your brain has a larger database to reference, a wider context in which to place new experiences. The acceleration of time is, in a way, evidence of a life lived. Children perceive time slowly partly because they're constantly overwhelmed by new information. Adults perceive time quickly partly because they've learned enough to navigate life more smoothly. The goal isn't to make every day feel as long as it did when you were 7. That would be exhausting. The goal is to balance efficiency with presence, routine with novelty, comfort with challenge. Some acceleration of time is inevitable and not even undesirable. What we want to avoid is reaching the end of a year or a life and feeling like it passed without us really experiencing it. We want to avoid the hollow sensation of lost time that we can't even remember losing. The techniques I've shared aren't about cramming more into your life. They're about being more present for the life you're already living. They're about creating a rich tapestry of memories that, when you look back, makes your time feel substantial and well-lived. Because here's the ultimate truth. Time doesn't actually speed up. Seconds are still seconds. Days are still days. Years are still years. What changes is your perception, your attention, and your memory formation. And those things? Those are under your control. William James, that same psychologist from earlier, wrote something that's haunted me since I first read it. The more awake we are to our inner experience, the slower time seems to pass. He wasn't talking about literally staying awake, obviously. He was talking about awareness, presence, attention. The reason time feels faster as you age isn't really about age at all. It's about attention. It's about presence. It's about memory. Children aren't better at experiencing life because they're young. They're better at it because they're present. Everything is worth their attention because they haven't decided yet what's worth noticing and what isn't. As adults, we develop filters. We tune out the familiar. We dismiss the ordinary. We wait for the extraordinary while letting the everyday slip past unnoticed. But here's a radical thought. What if the ordinary is extraordinary when you actually pay attention to it? What if a regular Tuesday morning, fully experienced, is as meaningful as a vacation, fully ignored? Time is the ultimate non-renewable resource. We spend so much energy trying to save time, kill time, find time, and make time. But time isn't something external to us. Time is how we experience our consciousness. Time is the medium in which we exist. When you understand the science behind why time feels faster, you realize that you have more power than you thought. You can't control how quickly the Earth rotates or how many days are in a year, but you can absolutely control what you pay attention to, what memories you form, and how present you are for your own life. So yes, time will feel like it's accelerating. That's inevitable. Your brain will keep comparing new experiences to your growing catalog of old ones. Your routines will continue to be efficient. Your dopamine production will gradually decline. But you can counterbalance all of that by choosing presence over autopilot, novelty over routine, and meaningful attention over passive consumption.